let it be recorded, and other people have the opportunity to participate and enjoy it at a later date. So, all right, there she is. So we're good to go now. So I think many of you have been on these before. We're down to our third open mic night. And just as a reminder, this is all about getting to know Joshua and Christopher in a different way than the way we know them and come to understand them from behind the pulpit up on stage. So that being the case, we're going to ask some questions. If you have questions through the course of this evening, don't hesitate to put it in the chat. But keep in mind that these types of questions are really intended to get to know them differently outside of the confines of kind of the traditional kind of church setting. Think about this as that virtual narthex, right? As you're leaving worship, as you normally would if you're attending in person, and you have that few minutes just to chat with whomever it is that is on staff. This is an extension of that. So Christopher and Joshua and Kristen and Stephanie and I have kind of had some of the pre-discussion prior, so I think we're set to go. If anybody has any questions, I'll open it up for a second. I don't see anybody nodding their head, so we'll get ready to go then. So what we'll start with is just some basic background, and I'll turn it over to Christopher. Just kind of a little bit of background on you, name, role, kind of family background, and then we'll flip it to Joshua, and then we'll get down into different topics. I'll tell you what, as you're talking about kind of your family situation, why don't you also talk about how you found your way to Grace Avenue? I think that might be a good kind of connection point.
All right. So my name is Christopher Vaughn. I'm the pastor of modern worship at Grace Avenue. I have been in the Frisco Little Elm area. I guess we moved up in 2014, my wife and I, and we have two children. Benjamin, who's 5, he'll be 6 next on Thursday this week. And Hattie, who is 2, and she'll be 3 on November 7th. So birthday's coming up, and then we've got a third baby on the way who'll be due on December 1st. So we've got October, November, December on lock for holidays and birthdays. And we're excited about all that. I'm originally from Houston and made my way to Grace Avenue because I went to seminary at SMU, Perkins School of Theology. And I had a classmate named Jenna Morrison, and Jenna was the youth minister at Grace Avenue. And she said, "Hey, I think you should come and work with me." And I said, "No, I'm pretty happy where I am." And I've been a youth minister now for a dozen or so years, and she was offering me a position to come and be her assistant. And I said, I don't really think I want to do that. And she said, "Well, it's a really good church. I want you to at least come and apply." And I don't really know why I applied, but I did. And I came in for an interview with Laura Eccles Richter. And she called me into her office, and then she took a few steps back and she said, I need just a few minutes. You look just like your mother. So that was officially the weirdest interview I've ever had. But Laura Eccles Richter and my mom, I called my mom afterwards, and I found out they were best friends in college. So they went to college together, sat next to each other in all of their classes. And so I thought, you know what, this may be where God wants me to be. And so I came and started working with Jenna, and then she and I ended up being co-youth directors for a few years. And now I'm the pastor of modern worship at Grace Avenue. So that's how I got here, was through a friend, I guess. So I'll
Excellent.
throw it over to Joshua.
And did you have any inclination that your mom knew Laura before you sat down in the interview?
I did not. And I told my mom that I was going to Grace Avenue, and I don't know that she made that connection in her head, but she sends Laura Christmas cards every year. So, I mean, Laura has literally, without ever meeting me in person, watched me grow up. So, it's, again, weirdest interview, right, I've ever had. I don't know how many of you have walked into interviews and somebody say, "I need a minute, you look just like your mother," but it was a surreal moment for sure.
Yeah. It broke the ice well, I'm sure. Excellent. Joshua.
Great. I just want to say, next time, let me go first, because I don't have anything near as interesting as that. So my name is Joshua Manning. I serve as one of the pastors at Grace Chapel. My role is particularly geared towards community engagement. That is like our small group and discipleship work internally, as well as how we might be the hands and feet of Christ out and about the 380 corridor. So I am married. My wife Bria and I will celebrate our 5th wedding anniversary on Friday. So
Congrats.
thank you. Thank you. Yes. It's the longest relationship I've ever been in. So what else? We have two children, 4-year-old named Lena and a 2-year-old named Caleb. They both had their adenoids removed last Thursday, and Caleb also had his tonsils removed and got tubes in both ears. So it's been quite a busy weekend over here. I think that was most of the stuff. How did I get to Grace Avenue? That is a good question. I was granted tenure this year by the North Texas Conference. And so when I became an elder in Full Connection, I guess that's kind of how I got here. I don't know how the appointment process works. Really. But
Roll of the dice. Didn't you know that?
yeah, it really is. No, for the past few years, so from the time I graduated from seminary up until now, I've been the pastor of the second oldest Black United Methodist congregation in the Dallas area. So that was my experience in the churches in South Dallas. So if any of you have been to the State Fair of Texas, while you're passing the Malcolm X and MLK intersection, the church is next behind the buildings that are no longer dilapidated, the buildings that have been refurbished and stuff. So
Gotcha. Interesting. So that was your only other church prior to coming to Grace Chapel?
yes, it was. I graduated from seminary out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah. So how long were you there?
So I was there from 2017 until 2021, so 4 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good. And your role there, just out of curiosity, you're doing
I was a
community
senior
engagement
pastor.
here. You're a senior
Yeah,
pastor, so you did it all. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
It was quite a challenge.
Awesome. So I will let you go first on the next one then. Craziest or most interesting job you ever had? I know that ministry can be crazy and interesting, certainly, but maybe outside of that.
Oh, I have two. My first one was I am originally from Long Island, New York. I forgot to mention that. So I'm from Long Island, New York, which is not really a city. That's more like the air. I guess it's an island. It's not really a peninsula. It's a whole island. But I'm from Eastern Long Island, not from the Hamptons. So all I have to say, I spent my summers like most Long Island kids working at Splish Splash, which is a water park in Eastern Long Island. So I worked as part of the restaurant team. So I walked around from all the restaurants on the strip, learning how to make all different types of things. So I was restaurant lead, did that all throughout high school, whatever else have you. But when I was in college, I worked as a produce associate at a wholesale club. So I spent and that was my other job. That was one of my jobs. My other job was to be a security guard, but I pick up, those 40-pound banana boxes and stack them up and make them look all nice for, people like us to go in the shop and mess up. So that was fun.
I bet. So with that history in the food business and then being down there at the church there outside of the state fair, do you have the place in your heart for the corny dog and all the state fair food?
No. Yes, the state fair was always a thorn in my side. Like imagine going to work and you can't get to work because all of a sudden people just randomly show up to the neighborhood. So that was like a thorn in my side. But a fun fact about how that connected. When I was at Warren, we started distributing salvaged produce to the community. And so myself, along with the executive director of the nonprofit that we were partnering with, and maybe like 1 or 2 other volunteers, would unload pallets and pallets of produce on Saturdays. And then I'd preach on Sunday, and then we try to clean up all the stuff before the trustees got on my case. So good stuff.
That's actually, how long did y'all do that?
Well, so we did that a couple of times, and then during the winter storm, we picked it back up. So
Gotcha.
during the winter storm, we did some of that for like a week and a half. Maybe I'm saying a month and a half, a week and a half, sure, but it was about a month and a half or so.
That's great. Awesome. Yeah, that's good. I mentioned some of your security guard stories maybe at a later time. Christopher, what about yourself? Interesting or craziest job that you had?
I mean, this is a tougher question for me because I mean, most of the jobs that I've had, I've now spent 16 years in church ministry, right? So for most of my life, my adulthood, I've been working in churches. So the only job that I had that wasn't in a church was I worked at a Best Buy. when I was in high school. And their motto was turn on the fun, but it was not a fun job. But like, I don't have any like interesting stories, right? It's just regular cashier stuff with people treating you like they treat cashiers, at Thanksgiving and Christmas, which, is not kind. So I don't have any great stories, of odd jobs. I have stories of different places and different churches I've worked at that, you have healthy churches or unhealthy churches, but, but other than that, I worked at Best Buy. So this is
Gotcha.
one where, Joshua said you should have let me go first. I should have gone first on this question because I don't have any fun
What about
jobs.
your construction stuff?
Well, I worked construction, but he said fun or odd jobs, and construction is neither fun nor odd jobs. So that was just tedious labor. So manual labor.
An appreciation for work.
Yeah, I used to tell people when I was in construction, nothing makes you want to work inside in an air-conditioned, cushy gig than working outside in construction for any period of time.
Yeah, I'm sure. What kind of construction was it?
So residential home building. So my family owns and operates a building business. It's called Ben Vaughn Builders in Shreveport, Louisiana. And so when I was trying to figure my life out after I graduated from my undergrad, I like to say I did a stint in the construction business. So
Very well. So I think that's something interesting that we didn't know about you, Christopher, in the context, or maybe some of the folks on this call didn't know. But it does lead into the next question, which is, what is something the congregation would be surprised to learn about you or to find out about you? And Joshua, if you want to go first, feel free to jump in. I'll let y'all fight it out, but
I'll go first. Just keep the rotation going. But I feel like it's going to answer what people normally get wrong about me. Let's just start with it. Let's do this. I think the first thing, to your point, Jason, was like when you asked what my role was in my previous church, the fact that I was a senior pastor before. I think that's interesting. That may be new to some people, but the other thing for me is that, oh my gosh, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. I am not an extrovert. I'm actually an introvert.
oh, is that right?
It is. So these like, I love getting to know people, but I prefer to do so in small group interactions. That takes way less energy out of me. But large group interactions, it's not my thing.
So are you spent at the end of the day on Sunday?
I'm spent at the end of the day every day. Because people always want to talk. Yeah, I'm spent at the end of the day every day. And so I come here in my room and I get on my Xbox and I put my headphones on and I just, go at it. And my wife doesn't love that. So, I have to figure that out. Balance, right?
Yep, absolutely. So Nancy just shared in the chat, if you didn't see that or not, but that you can sing like an angel. Right,
Yeah,
I think we're going to touch on that here in just a bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to hold my ace in the hole. Okay.
Excellent. Christopher, what about yourself? Something that the congregation would be surprised to find out or learn about you?
I don't know. I worked construction. I don't think everybody knows I work construction. I don't know how to answer that question. Of things because we, and maybe Joshua could speak to this. I share a lot about myself in sermons. So, it's hard to think of like, okay, what's something somebody hasn't heard or something that I haven't shared in church. So
should your mom answer that question?
She looks like she's chatting with my dad about it, but Kristen also unmuted, so I didn't know if she was
I
about to
did,
talk.
because, well, I don't think everybody knows how funny you are. I'm being serious. I don't think you can turn anything into a joke. And I mean, anything into a joke. And that's a gift. I'm telling you.
Does everybody know that you sang in college?
Well, that's, when people are like, oh, like, tell me something fun about you. I like to tell people like, oh, I went to college on a choir scholarship, which is not true, right? They only gave me like $100 a semester, but it counts, right? So I was in the Centenary College Choir. which is a world-renowned choir. They've sang in the White House 7 times and sang on every continent except Antarctica. And so, we've sung for the Queen, we've sung everywhere. And so I guess, now I've been prompted, but I've sang on the stage in the Sydney Opera House, right, with my choir. So there we go. That's fun facts about me you might not know.
City Opera House. Sorry for those of us that are less educated in that space, like myself.
The Sydney Opera House?
Oh, Sydney. Sorry, I thought you said the city.
Yeah.
I'm
So
like, oh, the City Opera House.
Sydney
Okay, which
Opera
city?
House, when you're watching Finding Nemo, it's that big building that they come up to after they talk to the whales.
Yes. Awesome. And who was there somebody in particular that was in the audience on that particular day? Like, you talked about singing for the Queen.
Yeah, well, I haven't personally sang for the Queen.
Okay.
The choir has, but I did not get to sing to the Queen. We had gotten invited to the White House so many times that in the 4 years I was there, they were trying to invite other groups there. But we had several presidents that really liked the choir, and so then they had to kind of rotate through.
Yeah, you're like, thanks, I'm hitting it right at the right time. But
Yeah.
hey, Sydney's not bad. Hopefully you got to spend some time in Australia while you were down there.
Yeah, we did. It is a wonderful place. I like to tell people that because I've traveled in a lot of different countries, all English speaking. So I've been to England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Australia, New Zealand. And if you have been to New York, then you've been to London, except London is just New York with castles. So it's that same like big city vibe, except you turn a corner and there's a castle. And Sydney, Australia is just like New York. It's just another really big city, except it's got some fun historical sites, just like New York. So
yeah, excellent. As I see Joshua shaking his head that New York is not London with castles.
I know. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. So interesting fact. I, being from New York, never did any of the touristy things. I've been to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That is it. I never went to the Empire State Building. Never went to the Statue of Liberty. I never went to see the ball drop on New Year's Eve. I avoided every single touristy thing that I ever could while growing up there.
When did you leave Long Island?
When I decided to go to Perkins, so that was 2014. I even did my undergrad on Long Island. Okay, like I never left. I was like, it's like getting stuck in a trap that you never get out of. It's like somebody. Well, I mean, I guess it's not dissimilar to Texas, right? It's like almost most people you meet have been to some like. Up there was the SUNY system, like the State University of New York system, right? Somebody went to some SUNY school for something, right? So here it's like A&M or UT. For them, like a lot of people I run into have been through like that system in some way, shape, or form. So or at least hoped to. So anyway, I avoided SUNY schools. I went to a private liberal arts college like Christopher did. So
Gotcha. And then felt like you needed to come south. How'd you find your way to Perkins?
Yeah. So interesting fact, I grew up in a predominantly Black Pentecostal denomination. And so when I answered a call to ministry, I actually did not need to go to seminary. I felt called to seminary. So that was a weird journey for me. And then feeling called to seminary, that's how I found my way to SMU and Perkins in particular, because I went on this search. I thought I was going to do like the normal, like Northeastern thing, was like, I'm going to Harvard, Yale, or one of these other schools and get my Ivy League education. SMU is not quite Ivy League, but I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. So yeah, I mean,
There's Ivy Pillars.
Yes, there are.
Lots of them.
Old Dallas Hall. Yeah. So for me, it was really rooted in the fact that I wanted to be a part of a learning community that felt like a family, and Perkins had what I was looking for. Weird to find that away from up there, but
excellent. Very good. So speaking of Long Island and kind of rolling in the next second, this is a kind of a 90-degree turn.
Mm-hmm.
Sports fan?
Yes, I have a couple of confessions to make. I am a New York Jets fan. So, while everyone else was, bemoaning their team's records, I never have anything to be excited about when it comes to football season. I will say, though, that I am not a Knicks fan, so I dodged that bullet. So, and I grew up in a split house. So my mom grew up behind Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. And my dad grew up behind Shea Stadium, or near Shea Stadium in Queens. So like Mets fans and Yankees fans. So I'm a Yankees fan, but I've been to more Mets games than I've been to Yankees games. And that's because Queens is geographically on Long Island. You don't have to go across the bridge to get to the
Right.
continental United States. so I definitely went to more Mets games. I'm a LeBron James fan. I don't really have a favorite basketball team. I just follow LeBron wherever he goes.
Gotcha.
You know.
Islanders versus Rangers.
Oh, thank you for
Okay.
asking. Yeah, Islanders. I mean, is that really a question? So here's the problem. I have a lot of friends who are Rangers fans, and like post Gretzky era and stuff like that. So everybody's super excited. It was super like hyped up. But the Islanders were the only team that actually played on Long Island. Like the only New York team that played on Long Island. So I took pride in that.
Gotcha.
And then they started playing the Barclays in Brooklyn. So
Yeah. And if you're choosing one, it sounds like in your heart of hearts, if you only could choose one of those teams.
Green Bay Packers. Okay, no.
I was like, that is something we did not know about you.
Yeah. No, the Yankees. I would just choose the Yankees.
Okay.
But Team LeBron counts, doesn't it? I feel like Team LeBron should count.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks on that team.
Yep.
So wherever he's playing.
Yes.
Chris, we got a little insight into your storied background and disappointments, given that you were an Oilers fan, and I share that with you. So I understand your pain. What about now? Does that look like you on the sports arena?
Yeah, the short answer is no. I don't really follow sports at all. I like to say back in the day, my dad's on the call, so he can refute if he wants to. But after the Oilers left, right, they broke our heart, and we never really watched football again in our house. And so, didn't really grow up watching football. My brother's an avid sports fan, so he runs ESPN all day. We were really blessed. I grew up at a church, St. Luke's in Houston, and a lot of the church members had season tickets to Astros games and Rockets games. And so one of the things that we were really fortunate is that they would give those tickets to the church, and then staff members could say, oh, well, we're available, we can go. So I grew up going to, Astros games and getting to sit, down the first baseline, or getting to sit, down the third baseline, or we'd be in Rocket Stadium and we'd be down in the front with everybody. A couple of times a year, we would get tickets to the Astros. It's right when, Clutch City, right, for Rockets when they were winning back-to-back championships. And we got to go and meet the team after one of the practices. And so I have, I think, 5 signed basketballs from all of the teams. So I've got Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler and like the whole crew all the way down there. My mom in the preschool at St. Luke's had both Biggio and Bagwell's kids, right, that she taught. And so I've got a lot of signed balls from Craig Biggio. And so, the short answer is no. So I'm telling you all this, and it sounds magical, right? I spent most of those games with a book in my hand reading while the game was going on, because that's how much I cared about sports. So now, right, so fast forward, right? I moved back to Dallas from Shreveport, Louisiana, where I did my undergrad. I moved to Dallas, and it was around the time that the Astros were trying to, really do some sell-off stuff. And so I didn't really like the way that they handled kind of their retirement of Biggio and Bagwell and Berkman and the whole crew. And so I was like, you know what, I'm done with the Astros, right? I'm going to be a Rangers fan from here on out, right? So, they had the $10 tickets, right? With your student ID, you get it from $8, right? And I was like, I'm going to go to the game, right? Well, the only time we'd ever really gone to the game growing up, we'd been given these tickets. So all of a sudden, right, I'm at the top of the stadium, right? And I had to climb 26,000 flights of ramp to get there. And I was like, I should have just stayed home, right? They're just little specks on the field. So I never appreciated what I had when I had it. That's the first moral of the story. And the second is the year that I started watching the Rangers is the year that they went all the way, right? It was the Antlers, and they were all set to win. I had a final on one of the last games, and they lost, and I didn't watch it. So I take full responsibility for that loss of season. But yeah, so the short answer is no. I don't really follow any teams regularly. I'm not an avid fan. Had lots of good experiences as a child, but squandered by reading books.
Yes, many sports fans would have appreciated a lot of the experiences that you had, sounds like.
I know Preston would have for sure. But it sounds like maybe I should send Preston on these adventures, and we can maybe Brooke and I can start a book club.
Excellent. Quickly, vacations, I've asked this about the others that have joined us. From a vacation standpoint, preference for beach or mountains?
I guess that's an easy one for me. My preference is the mountains. I like the beach for about 3 days. And that's about as long as I can just, the beach is meant for relaxing and sitting and just, kind of recentering yourself and I'm good with that. Then I want to go do stuff. So then I'm in the ocean trying to catch crabs, or I'm just bored. I'd much rather be in the mountains where you can still do the relaxing stuff, but then you can hit hiking trails. You can climb up to the top of stuff. You can grab a bicycle and risk your life coming down the mountain, right? I'd much rather head towards the mountains.
Excellent. Joshua?
Well, since Christopher brought that up, I am on a quest to find an all-inclusive resort in the mountains. That's my quest that I can actually go to. It's an accessible all-inclusive resorts in the mountains, okay? Because they exist, they're just not always accessible. So that's my goal. Because I'm actually all for lazing around, but I'd rather do so in a scenic area that's not just like wide open sea. I'm also like, being from Long Island, I'm much more into like deep sea fishing and not like freshwater fishing. So that's been a challenge for me moving down here. I want to say that. So anyway, I'll go to a beach if I can fish. But I would prefer to be somewhere that's more scenic.
Yeah. So the fishing off of Long Island, is that like, I'm thinking like the bluefish or something, or the big off the
So
tip?
bluefish, blackfish, porgies, a lot of porgies. Which people like, what's a porgy?
It's like a small pasta dish, I think.
Yeah, you Google it. Yeah, Google it. But there, so I'm just used to being on charter boats where people, just like drop line fishing. Most people are not casting because they're gonna get their lines tied up in one another, and the sinkers are too heavy. So there's that.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So historically, we've had somebody from the ministerial staff on, partnered with somebody from music staff, right? And because of schedules, we didn't have that this evening. But we do know that, as we've already heard, both of you have this history and background from a music perspective. So we're going to take a second, and Joshua, you sent over a couple of recordings.
Yeah, so just play one. It is the I Want It All. It is. I was the link to. I sent the link to a SoundCloud.
Kristen's got it. She's going to pull up. Do you know any background on this?
Yeah, the other one was a news article from the university newspaper when I won like this. They had Post Idol, so basically their version of American Idol. It was a competition. So won a university-wide competition for that. So
the background on the.
Yes, I Want It All. The background on I Want It All. When I was in college, I was a music business major as a freshman. And then I ended up transferring schools. So I had this weird stop between, majoring in music business, then switching to broadcast journalism and minoring in philosophy. And the stop was at like an audio engineering institute. And so it's New York City. There are a lot of historic recording studios like Electric Lady and, all these sorts of spaces. And so I had the opportunity to go and be a part of their audio engineering program. It was a 9-month program, but while I was there, I had spent some time as a worship leader as a teenager when I was in high school, and so I just started working on songwriting and things of that nature. But that was during my awkward stop between undergraduate programs.
Gotcha. And so this is music that you wrote?
Yes, it is. So I had a classmate in our audio engineering program send me an instrumental, and he was like, "I know you'll be able to do something with this." I was like, "We'll see what happens, man." So I just spent a whole weekend just like recording, and I thought I was going to be like a gospel artist at one point in time. So this was like the first studio demo. There's another one on this page, just like a demo I recorded at home, but this is the first studio demo.
Excellent. So you had the music track laid down, and you added the lyrics and wrote the lyrics on top of it.
Yep.
Awesome. Pretty cool. Well, Kristen, can you pull that up? And things kind of froze for me.
Yeah. So I can see Kristen.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
It did not play. Let's play again. Let's try again. Got it?
I'm trying to live life my way, but I can't. Need you by my side, Lord, I need you inside of me, guiding me in the right direction. Nobody told me that the road would be easy, so I know that I have to try and push a little harder. Sometimes I feel like I'm alone in this world. Nowhere to turn, feeling sick about your world. People talk about me, but it's okay. I believe it and I receive it. Yeah, that's why I'll say yeah.
That's awesome.
Look at that
Very
cutoff.
nice.
Praise God for the cutoff. Yeah, praise God for the cutoff. Yeah, that was, man. That was, ooh, what year we in? 2021. Oh my gosh, that was almost, I don't know, 7 years ago now that I recorded that demo. So it's interesting. I heard this when I was so part of the music business major was that I had to have an instrument, and voice is my instrument, and I always had these conversations with my voice instructors about like how my voice would mature over time. And you listen to yourself when you're younger, and you're like, wow, you have very little control over your voice. Like you have some, but it's not the same. And anyway, it was cool. It was a good time recording it and things like that. So.
That was awesome. So when was the last time you listened to that? Before today.
Earlier today before I sent it to you guys. Yeah. And but so I filled in the couple times we didn't have, like, Mariel was out before she moved on to her next ministry opportunity. While she was out, I did fill in a couple times for her or sing with her. So I've had opportunity to live into some of that here at Grace Chapel.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think primarily attending down at Grace Avenue, I didn't know that about you. So looking forward to kind of getting up there. Maybe I should come up there before things change again, so I have the opportunity to hear you live and in person.
Maybe. I'm supposed to be preaching in Modern on October 31st. I'm not saying I'm going to sing. I'm just going to be there.
Oh, well, and we'll plan on that. We look forward to hearing you sing and preach.
Yeah, we'll see. Right.
Excellent. So talking about music, one of the things that we've talked to those that came before you was this question of what album or book, right, have you recommended or gifted the most? Right? Not like your favorite, but one that you have said, oh yeah, you got to buy this, or you've given it to somebody most frequently. So book or album. I'll let either one of you guys start.
Let Christopher go first.
Well, I was gonna say I need to go first, right? Because I thought about this question a lot when you sent it to us, and I realized like I just don't do that, right? Like I don't see people and I'm like, hey, you need to listen to this album, or like, hey, I really like this book, right? Like I might talk to my wife or my mom about it, and that's the extent of my referral and recommendations, right? So like that's about as far as it goes. Or I might have like somebody in my office and I might suggest a book to that, but like I can't for the life of me like think about, I've referred this book like several times, or like I've told people to listen to this, but like not once in my life can I pinpoint something like that. So I figured I'd jump in and go first, and then Joshua was going to have something deeply profound to follow. So
And, yeah, deeply profound. So I'm very interested in productivity and business and self-help books, a lot of nonfiction. And I have an Audible subscription, and I don't download new books every month. Sometimes I just like go through, pick a whole bunch of titles. One book that I tend to recommend or like send to people through or share with people through my Audible subscription is Deep Work by Cal Newport. So Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, is, I believe, written for most of us, but like it particularly helps somebody like me. I work well in spurts. I'm a burst person. I do not do like long periods of sustained like energy. So it's CAL, sorry, Cal. I apologize. So Cal Newport. And his book essentially is about, human nature and how we work, and particularly some of us who either have, younger kids or kids who are very busy, or like just have disruptions in our lives. Like people constantly send us emails and expectations of work, and people like responding to emails in a timely fashion. Usually timely means like responding right away.
Yeah. Before it got to you.
Yeah, exactly. And then you spend your whole workday responding to an email instead of like doing the thing you were supposed to be doing. So Cal's point is to block out periods of deep work. So, a lot of people talk about time blocking, which I know is helpful for a lot of us, but he talks about, time blocking a period of deep work. So he is a computer science professor at Georgetown. And he was saying like his recommendation to grad students often in their seminars is to consider blocking out a period of time where they just do work, deep work. They don't look at email, phones on do not disturb, all those things. And he was talking about, particularly one grad student who was working on a dissertation, but had just had a child. And apparently it's a thing for grad students to have children. So like PhD candidates will be like ABD and they need to work on their dissertation and they'll have a baby. So he recommended time blocking, and a lot of the PhD students, when they started practicing this, it would be, maybe 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. before the baby gets up, and they'll get more done in that 3-hour period than they would over a day's worth of work, because they really decided to hone in and focus and set that time apart. Anyway, I sent it to everybody I know, largely because I think as pastors in particular, like this is a service industry, and like you're always interacting with people. And the problem is that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I shared with you all before, like for me, that drains me. And especially when I was a solo pastor, there was nobody on staff when I was in my other church. I was the only one. So the challenge of that with me was like, I never had enough energy to do things I needed to do. And then I started being less than proficient at my job. And for me, that was a stewardship issue. That was an issue of faith, or crisis of faith for me. Because I was like, I feel like I wasn't being a good steward over the gifts that God gave me, or the resources that that people were giving to God through your church. Like, so like I needed to really make sure I was being a good steward of those things. And for me, that meant figuring out how I can do my best work. Anyway, all that said, I sent everybody I know, because my experience is not just with ministry, but every other industry. And even now with the way social media is always attached to us, or we're always connected to people, it takes a lot of energy to always be connected. So I think it's helpful. I'm sorry, I try not to go on a rant about it, but deep work.
No, that's good. And so this is something you kind of instilled from a practice standpoint. You still kind of, after reading it, kind of is part of kind of how you kind of maintain that balance, sounds like.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, so I just keep listening to Cal Newport stuff. He has a book, but then he has a podcast as well. And I try to consume as much, content as I can around that, because not everyone is as interested in that type of, I want to call it extreme way of productivity. Like I know there are communities for it, but like as a pastor, nobody's really interested in, like, I don't know many pastors are interested in productivity in that way. So I'm very intrigued by it. And, most people, I think, in most industries will burn themselves out before they start taking a look at how to be more efficient. Yeah. Anyway, I think finding those communities are good. And he has another book about digital minimalism, and I think he has something else called A World Without Email. He's a very extreme person.
Interesting. So favorite author, would he be categorized as your favorite author?
Yeah, maybe. That's not theological. Sure. Yeah. And then this is very practical information for me. And I would say, like, one of his recommendations really helped me, which is like set time for checking emails. So I check email twice a day. It was easier when I was working by myself. Okay. But now that I'm in a new church, I mean, I'm learning the culture, but I still check email twice a day.
Yeah.
And so, most times it's emergency, people can call me, but that's been helpful.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure. I'd like to hear how I can adjust to that. What about favorite artist on the musical side of things? You have one?
Michael Jackson. Okay, no, I had a lot of Michael Jackson cassettes growing up, and for a long time I was really into Chris Brown. I was really into him. Oh, that's something people don't know about me because I grew up on Long Island. I listened to a lot of top 100 and top 40 stuff. So I was pastoring a church in South Dallas. I listened to a lot of top 100 and top 40 stuff. So it's hard to call a favorite artist nowadays because most of them are DJs featuring artists.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what's on your playlist?
I start. So the song that I go on Apple Music and I just hit like start station or whatever it is. It's Moana, the soundtrack from Moana, first off with the toddlers. But number 2 is there's a song. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna pull up Apple Music while you're asking me about it because I started my playlist with this song and it gets me going. Oh, Remember with Becky Hill and David Guetta.
I don't know.
You guys know? Yeah. So anyway, that's a pop song. It came out in June, so I started my playlist. I also do my work to lo-fi hip hop. So.
Oh yeah, I'd listen to that on Amazon Music. I think it is. So, yeah, really like that one. Christopher, what about yourself? I know you're not gifting books, right? But maybe there's an author or an artist in there somewhere that you have as a favorite, or maybe what's on your playlist.
Yeah, so I was talking to Caitlin about this too, because I really don't have a favorite artist, right? Like, I mean, I just don't like to pick favorites, I guess. It's tough to nail me down on stuff. But I do have a philosophy on music. And so I'll share my music philosophy. And I think the challenge with music, all kinds of music, is you'll hear people oftentimes say, especially as they begin to get older, that's just noise. Right? Like, I don't know how people can listen to that. That's just noise, or that's garbage, or how do you, and so one of the things that I started doing, especially in youth ministry, right? Because you have these moments where like, how do they listen to this? This is straight garbage, right? They're trying to play it in the van or whatever. And you're like, I don't understand why anyone would want to hear this. And so I would listen to music, and this is the way that I listen to music is I want to find whatever song, I want to find one thing that's cool about it. One thing I like about it, one thing that is resounding. What is the one thing that is connecting somebody to that music or that particular artist or that particular song? And so that's the way that I listen to music. So I'm all over the place, right? I'll hit the top country charts, the top pop charts, R&B, right? I mean, you name it, I'm going to listen to it. Indie and folk and instrumental and so I'm all over the board, but I'm always trying to figure out what's cool about this. What is relational to this? What is connecting somebody to this particular piece of music, right? And so, I mean, right now, my playlist is very eclectic, right? I've got everything from, instrumental groups like Explosion in the Skies, right? All the way to like Lizzo, right? Feeling Good as Hell. So, you're all over the map on different stuff. So, but I always, that's my philosophy on music, is listening to things and just trying to figure out what's cool about it or what's relating to somebody in some way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I misanswered that question. My favorite artist is Drake. That is he's my favorite artist. Yeah.
Gotcha. So he took Michael's place?
Yeah, Drake is, I'm a very emotional person underneath everything. I'm not very emotive, but I'm emotional. And Drake seems to get me.
Yeah, I hear you. There are songs that
Certified Lover Boy was a good album. It's instant classic.
Yeah. So sticking in kind of the entertainment space, and Christopher, I'm not going to ask you for a favorite on this, right?
Because we don't have one.
Right, exactly. But, and I know that both of you are probably limited in terms of your TV time, right? But there are stations like TBS and TNT that play movies just like round the clock all the time. And you talked about diversity, Christopher, earlier. There was a lot of diversity in the answer to this question earlier on some of our previous sessions. But what is that movie that pretty much will just suck you in, right? Doesn't matter if you catch it at the beginning or in the middle or towards the end. It's like once you see it, you're like sitting down watching it, you're reciting. I'm saying lyrics, but lyrics is not the right word. But you know the words to the movie, right? You just know it backwards and forwards. So what is that movie for you guys?
I mean, I really don't like to watch things more than once. I like, I'll
Work
catch,
with me, Christopher.
yeah, I'll catch you in a- I mean, you're talking about TV, and I don't know a lot of people that still have TV, right? I mean, most of the people in my circles, we've switched over to streaming services, and we watch whatever we want whenever we want. So just like walking into a room and being like, oh, I know that movie, right? I haven't had that happen to me in years. But I will say, if I'm at my parents' house and my dad's got a John Wayne flick on, right, I'll sit down and watch that with him every time, right? One of my favorite movies of all time, because I used to, people used to ask you these questions, and so one time I just decided anytime someone's going to ask me this question, I'm just going to answer with this particular movie. Okay, and so I decided that in high school, and I've said it the same movie every time. But I love the movie A Knight's Tale, right? It's very quotable. If you haven't seen it, it mixes medieval times with hard rock, and so it's got this kind of rock medieval times vibe to it that's very fun. Heath Ledger's in it. I always wanted them to make a Knight's Tale 2, and then Heath Ledger died, so that dream is dead. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, right, if I can not watch something twice, I won't. There's too much new stuff out there, right, to go back and forth. And then Christmas movies, right? You got to watch the Christmas classics, because I have children now, and they ask to watch those movies every year. Otherwise, I'd be trying to find new Christmas movies.
And now they're probably wanting to watch them in the summertime because they can.
Because
Well, come to our house and you can help us adjust the rabbit ears on top of the television.
I do know how to do that excellently. I just want to say, okay, I'm well versed in the rabbit ears.
Excellent. Joshua, you have a movie that will suck you in, or you regularly kind of fall back on?
No, I stopped being so cynical. I feel like Christopher is very cynical, and I don't really know, Like I stopped. I grew. I didn't grow out of it. Like I forced myself out of it, and so now I'm just sitting here like, man, I wish I still had the strength to be like, I don't have a favorite. Okay, but.
It's not cynicism. It's just the way I live my life, Joshua. There's so many new things out there. Just going back,
Well, it's okay to have favorites every once in a while. I think my favorite movie, I think music, like a lot of musicals that they converted into movies have helped us have like favorites more often. So we watch Dreamgirls quite a bit here at this house. I will sing any song from that movie like to the top of my lungs, and the kids are now on that wave. We introduced them to it last week. But as far as favorites, Dreamgirls is just like something I sing along with. Hairspray I'll sing along with too. But I did musical theater in high school, so almost any musical has been converted into a feature film I'll do. But I watch anime. I do not watch like live action television. I watch a lot of like cartoons, and my wife thinks I'm juvenile for it. And she particularly cannot understand why I would watch cartoons with subtitles. But
yeah, so that does introduce another thing that we did not know about you until now. So I'm glad we're continuing the conversation. Big anime fan.
I'm a millennial. I feel like I grew up where anime started becoming like less nerd culture and more pop culture.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we're running short on time. We got like 6 minutes left, right? And we're generally trying to keep it right at an hour. And we have like these rapid fire questions that we typically go off of towards the end. But 2 of these questions include this word favorite. And I know how much success we've had with those questions earlier. So we're going to pass on those and kind of just hit on 3. So question is, what is on your nightstand? Assuming you have
junk. Besides junk.
Junk's good, right?
Yeah,
so if you ask me, I got junk and books.
Yeah, so I have one book on my nightstand, and then I have my Kindle Paperwhite. So I have my Kindle Paperwhite, and then I have this book by Austin Channing Brown called "I'm Still Here." The subtitle is Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness. And so I have that one near my nightstand. I haven't finished it yet. And I read through most of it pretty quickly, but I've just been taking my time because it feels like I thought it was more like it's nonfiction, but I didn't think it was going to be as much memoir as it is. So I'm trying to find myself trying to connect to it.
Yeah, fair. And what was the name of that book again?
I'm Still Here,
I'm Still
Black
Here.
Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness. The author's name is Austin Channing Brown.
Christopher, do you have a
Um,
nightstand? Let's start there.
Yeah, I have a nightstand.
Okay,
I
excellent.
don't like a lot of clutter. So my nightstand has a lamp on it. It has my phone charger and it has my watch charger. And that's it. My wife's nightstand has the 2 monitors for our baby, a lamp, a box of Kleenexes, 6 books she hasn't ever read, a phone charger, a watch charger, a various assortment of other things. And she's making faces at me across the room and telling me I probably shouldn't share. So it's just, it's a different world, but I like, mine's simplified. There's not a lot of junk on it.
All right, so it sounds like you would like the Digital Minimalism book by Cal.
Potentially.
So we'll wrap with this one. What is the thing that you are deeply grateful for right now? You guys are both anxious to go. I'll flip a
I
coin.
thought Joshua was going to go first because
Okay.
I answered the last one last.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, let me go first. All right.
That was bad on my part. I didn't kind of.
Yeah, no,
give you
fine.
in.
Yeah,
That's on.
so
That's on me.
yeah, the thing I'm deeply grateful for in this season. I'll use the word peace, and not peace insofar as having a level of contentment with like the stage of life I'm at, and what I have control over, what I don't have control over, and also with the pace at which my life is moving. So I think that's also like an existential crisis of your early 30s. It's like I just like got to a point where I'm just like, I'm in control of this, I'm not in control of that. And instead of trying to make stuff happen, I'm much more interested in making the most out of what is happening.
Yeah. Very good. That pace has changed for you?
Yeah, a lot of running really quickly early on. And now I'm just like, where am I running to? That's the question I have now, is where am I actually running to?
Sounds like intentionality a lot, right? Yeah, for sure. Christopher, what about yourself?
I think I could boil it down to 3 things. The first is I'm very deeply grateful for my family. I've got a wonderful support system. We've got, 2 very healthy, wonderful children who are, hitting developmental milestones, and they shock you every day. And we've got 1 on the way. And so I'm just deeply grateful for where I'm at with my family right now. The second is I'm going through the commissioning process in United Methodist Church. And so I'm very deeply grateful for all of the mentors and support that I have in the midst of all of that, of just the people who have, laid the groundwork for me to even be at this phase of life right now. Many of you on this call have supported me in that and continue to support. And so I'm just deeply grateful for mentors and friends who are supporting me in this phase of my life. And then third, before I came to this meeting tonight, I was in another meeting, and it is a strategic planning meeting where we're trying to kind of figure out what the next phase of life for our church looks like. And so I'm just deeply grateful for our church and the intentional way that we are seeking to live out our calling in our community. And I'm really, really excited for what the future looks like, at least in terms of the kind of stepping stones that we're placing now that's going to lead to the foundation that we're going to build as a church. So I'm deeply grateful for, I guess, a lot of things right now.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. I'll tell you, it was, I enjoyed the discussion this evening, getting to know both of you in a different way than I had previously. Christopher, we've had a lot of discussion, but I learned some things this evening that I didn't know. So thanks for that. And Joshua, you and I really haven't had an opportunity to interact much besides our kind of prep call prior to this. So thanks for that. I know I got a lot out of it, and I hope that the rest of the folks on the call did as well. We've got 1 more of these open mic nights coming up. I believe that's the case. 1 more. I'm looking at Kristen and Stephanie because I'm drawing a blank. And the date on that is?
November 11th.
November 11th. Excellent.
Like that. I'm pretty sure.
8th.
November 8th.
November 8th.
11/8.
There you go.
11/8. And I believe we have Lori's on that. InSub is a part of that session. And then I want to say we had a third.
Laura.
Laura. Yeah, she's part of it too. Very good. Thank you all for spending your evening with us. Joshua, Christopher, thanks again for the time and the prep, right? It's not just about showing up. You guys gave some thought to this prior, so we appreciate that investment. And thanks everybody else for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. And have a good evening. And we'll hopefully see y'all next month.
Bye.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.